I'm Michelle Vucko from the Raid Studio, and you're listening to True North Country Comics Podcast.
Welcome to the True North Country Comics Podcast, dedicated to promote Canadian comic book and graphic novel creators and supporters. I'm John Swinimer. If you want to drop me a line, you can contact me at john@truenorthcountrycomics.com. On this episode, I chat with Michelle Vucko about her contribution to Raid KLAATU anthology and more. This podcast is available on Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts. It's also available on the True North Country Comics channel on YouTube. I invite you to like and subscribe. Michelle is based in Toronto and began working in the 3D industry in high school and went on to graduate in 2008 from the Animation Arts program at Seneca College. Since then, Michelle has expanded her skills in illustration and design, bringing a passion and love for art to a wide variety of projects. Her most recent effort, entitled Harbor, is included in the Raid KLAATU anthology. Raid KLAATU is a dynamic new genre-driven volume from the unhinged imaginations of international creators. And so, without further ado, here's my chat with Michelle Vucko about her contribution to Raid KLAATU and more. So, Michelle Vucko, thank you very much for taking time to chat with me.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate your time. What I usually do to start off the interview is ask the creator about their first comic book. So I'm wondering, what was the first comic book that you read?
I think that I started off like a lot of kids do, just reading newspaper comics. You know, like every Saturday or Sunday, they'd have like the big issues. I read a lot of mutts, like Peanuts, that kind of thing.
That's
Sherman's
cool.
Lagoon.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Sherman's Lagoon. That was a good one. Yeah, there's lots of good stuff. Unfortunately, that's sort of disappeared by the wayside, which is unfortunate. It was certainly a generation of readers grew up with those. Certainly Garfield was another, but lots of good stuff. Definitely lots of good reading material then growing up, but I'm wondering who or what inspires you to create today?
I take a lot of inspiration, actually a lot of Canadian cartoonists, like Kate Beaton, Michael DeForge, Guy Lee. Those I think are my big influences. For actually the comic that I did for Raid, that's a big Twilight Zone kind of thing. So you could say the inspiration comes from there. Also, I really like Winsor McCay, Little Nemo.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Very creative.
Absolutely. So I understand you were involved in the Raid KLAATU anthology. So I wonder if you could talk a little bit about your contribution to that book.
I did a short story. It's called Harbor. It's a kind of Twilight Zone-esque comic. It's about a girl living on a secluded island who comes across a plane crash. She's never seen a plane before. She doesn't know what it is. She doesn't know where it's come from. And she goes to explore inside.
Now, you mentioned Twilight Zone. Was there any particular episodes that you remember from that were, that might strike interest in this particular project?
I think that it was sort of the overarching theme of it, just like the twists I enjoyed, the eeriness, the things not appearing as they seem. I wanted to kind of capture that feeling of there maybe being something out there in the world that you don't know about, something that maybe there's like something larger in the world.
Now, you worked alone on this project?
Yes, I did. It's a story that I've been thinking about for a little while. I would call this like a snippet or vignette of a larger story about this secluded island. I'm very interested in kind of isolated islands and people that try to get themselves away from the rest of the world and how they live.
Did you get a chance to see the other stories before you started on yours, or was it just like, okay, and now you're handing in your story?
I actually started a little bit later than everybody else. So I saw a little bit of what people were working on, some like sketches that people had, but I guess that it's mostly just like what I decided to do.
Sure. Now, I also understand you're working on a graphic novel, and it's about Shakespeare's Hamlet. I wonder if you could talk a bit about that project.
This is also something that I've been wanting to do for a while. Since I read Hamlet in high school, I think it was grade 9 or 10 or 11, somewhere you read Hamlet. And I found it to be very comedic. So I wanted to make a comedic retelling of Hamlet, something that people could read if they're very familiar with it. I wanted to have something in it that people who've never read it would be able to like pick up, and maybe it's easier to digest for them, and just something that's, well, not more fun, I can't say, because it's Shakespeare, you can't say that you're better than Shakespeare, but something that is just like entertaining, kind of like a satire, but still respectful.
Did you make it more modern, or did you set it back in that time period?
It is set back in Hamlet days, but it's like with modern language, so it'll be easy for anybody to pick up and read.
When you talk about Shakespeare in comics, what usually comes to mind is Sandman. And,
oh, yeah.
and certainly what Neil Gaiman did there was just tremendous. So I wouldn't say he's on par with Shakespeare, but certainly that's a very great work to look at for sure. Well, I want to switch gears a wee bit and talk about the tools used to create your art. Can we talk a little bit about that? What tools do you use?
I'm pretty simple. I use Photoshop mainly. I have a Wacom Cintiq. Sometimes I still sketch like on paper just to do things loosely, but it is like 99% digital. I use SketchUp to get 3D references. They have like a great library of pre-made models, or I will build something myself in 3D. And I also have a plugin on my Photoshop called Lazy Nizumi, which really helps. They have a perspective tool. They have like clean line tools. It's very, very helpful.
Do you ever find in talking to some artists, they usually have a little sketchbook with them if they're out and about? Do you find that when you're doing all digital, that's something you can't carry around with you? Is that usually a problem?
Yeah, well, sometimes I will sketch like little ideas on maybe Post-it notes or like journals, but it is something that like I would like to have an iPad or something like that so I could work more on the go, because my setup is very cumbersome. I have like a big desktop, a big tablet, and monitors. It's not as easy, I guess, not as easy to get up and go as it used to be.
Yeah, that's tough to make mobile, that's for sure.
Oh,
I
yeah.
remember some people saying the iPad mini that just came out
yeah.
is compact enough to put in your back pocket, depending on how big your jeans are. But and certainly a pencil does go with it. So it might be a thought. I'm not telling you what to do, but it's something.
I mean, it's a great thought.
Some people, if you want to stick with the digital and just share it when you get back to your desktop. Lots of ideas, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's been something that I've been thinking about. It would also make it easier to go to the Raid studio, obviously, if I had an iPad.
Yes. Now, I know that we're getting into convention and festival season as things are starting to open up a little bit more here after the pandemic. Wondering, do you have anything on the go, anything planning for your travels for attending conventions in the future?
Nothing out of town. I'm looking forward to TCAF, to be able to go for the first time, I guess, in 2 years. It's always been my favorite convention, so I'm very excited to go back to that.
Yeah. Do you have any favorite moments from conventions or festivals? Anything that comes to mind?
I guess back in the day when I was just going just for fun, I would go cosplaying with my friends and things like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
I did, me and my stepsister, we did these, Battle Royale?
I should say yes, but I can't recall that off the top of my head.
It's okay. It's a Japanese horror movie based on a book. It's about it's kind of like Hunger Games.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Based on this class that gets into an island and they.
Oh, sorry, you said Battle Royale.
Yes.
Yes, now it does ring a bell. Yes. Sorry.
So we did kind of these like zombie Battle Royale things. I think we did that like 5 years in a row.
Oh my.
So that was a lot of fun.
Sure, yeah, that's always a fun component of going to these shows, just to see who's dressed up as what. And I know that Toronto Comic Con is coming up very soon. I'm sure people will be wandering around in those sorts of costume, which is great. It's great to have everyone there.
It's so fun.
For sure.
I don't do it anymore, but it's fun to watch.
Yes, absolutely. There you go. So we've talked about Raid KLAATU. We've talked about your upcoming Shakespeare's Hamlet graphic novel. Do you have any other projects on the go that you can talk about?
Hamlet takes up most of my time right now. I guess the next thing that I would be working on after Hamlet is it's something I haven't really talked about that much, but I'm going to be working on a kind of sort of post-apocalyptic dog adventure in the works. Mm-hmm. I don't want to say too much about it, but sure. That's something that's in the future.
So where do you recommend people go to find out more about your current and your future works when they go online and through social media?
Instagram's probably the best. It's Nickel Curry, nickel like the currency, curry like the food.
Do you have an online website?
It's It's being updated at the moment, but it would be nickelcurry.com. Nickel Curry everywhere.
Thanks to Michelle for the chat. You can discover more about Michelle on Instagram at nickelcurry and online at nickelcurry.com. And you can discover Raid KLAATU on Kickstarter. Thanks to you for listening to the True North Country Comics podcast. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to and like this podcast on Apple Podcasts, and please leave a good rating. Also check out the TrueNorthCountryComics.com website and follow along on Twitter at True North Comics. True North Country Comics is now on YouTube. Please like and subscribe to that video channel. Please send your feedback to John at TrueNorthCountryComics.com. Thanks again for listening, and come back soon for another episode. Bye for now. True North Country Comics podcast is copyright True North Country Comics, copyright 2022.